There comes a moment in life when you realize that not everything you chase is worth your time, not every battle is worth fighting, and not every distraction deserves your energy. You wake up one day and see that your life is filled with noise, constant notifications, endless comparisons, opinions from others, fears of the future, regrets of the past. And in the middle of all this noise, you've forgotten the very thing that matters most: your purpose, your clarity, your peace. And the truth is, until you learn how to focus only on what truly matters, you will always feel drained, restless, and unfulfilled. Attention is the currency of life, because everything you give your attention to becomes bigger, stronger, and more powerful in your reality. If you constantly focus on fear, fear multiplies. If you keep feeding doubt, doubt grows until it suffocates your potential. But if you choose to direct your energy toward growth, faith, love, and discipline, those very things begin to shape your world. The truth is, life is not built on what happens around you, but on what you choose to focus on within you. The same day can look completely different depending on the lens of your attention. For one person, a setback is a disaster. For another, it is a lesson and an opportunity. What makes the difference is not the situation itself, but the focus each person decides to give it. Your attention is like sunlight. Wherever it lands, growth happens. If you shine it on weeds, they grow wild and choke out the flowers. If you shine it on flowers, they blossom into beauty. In the same way, if you continually pour your attention into gossip, negativity, and distractions, your life will fill up with emptiness. But if you redirect that same attention toward your dreams, your health, your purpose, your relationships, and your faith, your life will become rich, fulfilling, and meaningful. The problem is not that people don't have enough energy. It is that their energy is wasted on the wrong things. It is scattered in so many directions that nothing ever flourishes. You cannot expect growth in your life if your focus is always consumed by what drains you instead of what builds you. Every distraction you indulge in is a thief of your destiny. Every minute you spend worrying about someone's opinion, replaying past mistakes, or endlessly scrolling through other people's highlight reels is a minute taken away from building your own. You may not see the cost immediately, but over time it adds up. It becomes years of wasted potential, years of dreams left untouched, years of passion suffocated under the weight of meaningless noise. Imagine how powerful your life could become if you stopped scattering your focus on 1,000 meaningless things and instead concentrated it on the few that matter most. That is where transformation begins. This is why people who accomplish extraordinary things often seem unstoppable. It is not because they are smarter, luckier, or more gifted. It is because they understand the value of attention. They protect it with everything they have. They refuse to waste it on things that bring no return. They channel it toward their vision, their growth, and their mission. Their results are not the product of luck. They are the product of disciplined focus. And the same power is available to you the moment you decide to use your attention with intention. Attention is more than time. You can spend hours in a room with someone without really being present, without really giving your focus. You can go through your day completing tasks mechanically while your mind drifts elsewhere. But when you give your full attention, whether to your loved ones, your work, your health, or your personal growth, you breathe life into that area. That is when connection deepens, progress accelerates, and purpose strengthens. The quality of your life is not measured by the quantity of hours you live, but by the quality of attention you give to what matters within those hours. When you begin to treat your attention as your most valuable asset, everything changes. You become more protective of your energy. You stop saying yes to everything. You learn to walk away from conversations, environments, and habits that rob you of focus. You choose carefully where your mind goes because you understand that wherever your mind goes, your life follows. And with that awareness, you begin to step into power. You realize that your life has never been about doing more. It has always been about focusing more. Distractions are seductive because they offer something that feels good in the moment without demanding much effort from you. They give you instant relief from stress, quick entertainment when you feel bored, and short-lived pleasure when you crave stimulation. The problem is that while they appear harmless, they slowly rob you of your energy, time, and direction. You think scrolling through your phone for a few minutes won't matter, but those minutes stack into hours, and those hours steal the time you could have used to work on your dreams. You believe indulging in gossip or petty arguments gives you a sense of connection or importance, but in reality, it only drains your spirit and distracts you from what actually brings growth. Distractions create the illusion of progress because they keep you busy, but they never move you forward. The empty nature of distractions is what makes them so dangerous. They leave you with nothing to show for the time you spent. At the end of a day filled with distractions, you feel tired but not fulfilled, active but not accomplished. You gave your attention away freely, and yet you gained nothing of value in return. That is why people often go to bed restless, sensing deep down that their energy was wasted on things that never truly mattered. The human mind was not designed to live scattered. It was designed to live with focus, purpose, and clarity. When you starve your mind with meaningless noise, you feel the emptiness of it. The more you give in to distractions, the weaker your ability to focus becomes. It is like a muscle that atrophies when left unused. Every time you choose a distraction over discipline, you are training your mind to chase temporary pleasure instead of lasting fulfillment. It becomes harder to sit still and work deeply, harder to resist the urge for instant gratification, harder to commit yourself fully to what requires effort. This is how distraction steals not only your time, but your very capacity for greatness. It numbs your drive, dulls your vision, and blinds you from your potential. Think about how many people spend their days reacting to notifications, checking every alert, and chasing every piece of news or drama that comes their way. They feel busy because their minds are constantly occupied, but in reality, they are achieving nothing that truly counts. They are trapped in the cycle of stimulation without progress. The danger is that this cycle feels normal, even comfortable, which is why most people never break free. It takes courage to admit that much of what you give attention to is nothing more than empty distraction. The truth is, distractions are designed to keep you from confronting what matters. They protect you from facing the hard work of growth, the discomfort of discipline, the vulnerability of pursuing your dreams. It is easier to scroll, binge, argue, or gossip than it is to build, create, learn, or heal. That is why distractions are always appealing. They give you the easy way out. But what they don't tell you is that the easy way out is also the empty. It costs you your future in exchange for a moment of temporary relief. When you finally begin to recognize distractions for what they are, you start to see the high price they demand. Every hour wasted is an hour you never get back. Every moment consumed by something meaningless is a moment stolen from something meaningful. And when you look at your life through that lens, you realize you cannot afford to keep spending yourself on things that leave you with nothing. The seduction of distractions fades when you understand their emptiness, and in that clarity, you find the strength to walk away from them and choose instead the path that leads to fulfillment, growth, and purpose. Clarity is your compass, because without it, you are wandering through life without direction, reacting to whatever comes your way rather than choosing your path with intention. When you know what truly matters to you, decision-making becomes simpler and distractions lose much of their power. Clarity gives you the ability to recognize which opportunities align with your purpose and which ones are simply detours disguised as progress. Too many people are exhausted not because life is too hard, but because they are pulled in 1,000 directions at once, trying to please everyone and do everything. The moment you gain clarity, you stop scattering your energy and start channeling it into the few things that make the biggest difference. Clarity is powerful because it allows you to say no without guilt. Most of the stress people feel comes from their inability to turn down what doesn't matter. They agree to commitments they don't care about. They hold on to relationships that drain them, and they invest time in habits that don't serve them. When you don't know what matters most, you are vulnerable to every demand that comes your way. But once you are clear, once you have identified the priorities that truly define your purpose, you can draw boundaries with confidence. You no longer feel guilty for saying no, because you know that every no to the meaningless is a yes to the meaningful. Clarity also strengthens resilience. Life will inevitably throw challenges at you, and without a clear sense of purpose, it's easy to get lost in the storm. But when you know what matters most, you can endure difficulties because you have something worth fighting for. The temporary discomfort becomes bearable because you understand it is part of the path to your greater goal. People who lack clarity give up easily because they have nothing anchoring them. But people with clarity keep moving because they can see beyond the immediate struggle toward the vision that drives them. Another gift of clarity is focus. The mind cannot direct its energy effectively when it is clouded by confusion. But when you are clear about your values, your priorities, and your goals, your mind becomes sharper and more efficient. You wake up each day knowing what to work on, who to give your time to, and what to let go of. You stop wasting hours second-guessing yourself or chasing things that don't contribute to your growth. Instead, your energy flows into the work, relationships, and habits that align with your greater purpose. That is how clarity multiplies progress. It eliminates wasted effort and replaces it with intentional action. Clarity also brings peace. One of the greatest sources of anxiety is living in constant uncertainty, feeling pulled in different directions without knowing which path to take. But when you have clarity, you are no longer burdened by endless options. You know what matters, and because you know, you stop comparing yourself to others and you stop feeling lost in the noise of society's expectations. Clarity frees you from living for approval and empowers you to live for purpose. It allows you to measure success not by what others think, but by how well you remain true to your values. To gain clarity, you must be willing to pause, reflect, and ask yourself difficult questions. What do I value most? What brings me fulfillment? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? The answers may not come overnight, but when they do, they become your compass, guiding every decision and shaping every moment. With clarity, you no longer wander aimlessly. You walk with confidence, direction, and conviction, knowing that your steps are aligned with the things that truly matter. Most people know exactly what matters in their lives, but the tragedy is that they rarely prioritize it. Deep down, people are aware that health is a foundation of strength, yet they ignore their bodies until pain or illness forces them to pay attention. They know that relationships bring meaning, yet they give more attention to screens and distractions than to the people who truly love them. They know that dreams are what make life extraordinary, yet they put them on hold year after year, telling themselves they will start when the time is right. The problem is not ignorance. The problem is neglect. Knowledge without action is wasted potential, and awareness without prioritization leads to regret. It is easy to say you value health, family, and purpose, but the truth is revealed not in what you say, but in what you do every single day. If you spend more time worrying about strangers on the internet than connecting with your loved ones, then your actions show your priorities. If you spend hours indulging in distractions but avoid investing even a few minutes in your growth, then your choices expose where your focus truly lies. Life is a mirror, and it reflects not what you wish for, but what you consistently choose. The painful reality is that many people live misaligned, wanting one thing, but acting in a way that produces the opposite. This misalignment is the root of much of life's dissatisfaction. When you know something matters, but you fail to give it time, you create an inner conflict. You feel guilty for neglecting it, but the guilt isn't strong enough to drive change. Over time, this cycle breeds regret. You look back and wish you had taken better care of yourself. Wish you had spent more time with the people who are no longer here. Wish you had started the dream that you now feel too old to pursue. Regret is the price of failing to prioritize what matters while you still had the chance. The truth is, prioritization requires sacrifice. You cannot claim to value everything equally because everything cannot hold equal weight. To prioritize what matters, you must learn to let go of what doesn't. This is where most people struggle because distractions are easy and comfortable, while priorities demand effort and consistency. Health requires discipline. Relationships require intentional presence. Dreams require persistence through failure and setbacks. It is far easier to push these things aside for later while indulging in what feels good right now. But later never comes, and when it does, it often comes with consequences. The body you neglected is now weak. The relationships you ignored are now broken. The dream you delayed is now buried under years of wasted time. The people who live fulfilled lives are not necessarily those with the most resources, time, or talent. They are the ones who make the decision every single day to invest in what matters most. They don't wait for perfect circumstances, and they don't fool themselves with the excuse of someday. They act today. They choose the important over the urgent, the meaningful over the comfortable, the lasting over the temporary. They align their actions with their values, and that alignment creates peace, progress, and fulfillment. To live this way, you must constantly ask yourself whether your daily choices reflect your true priorities. If they don't, you must have the courage to realign. This may mean waking up earlier to work on your dream, turning off your phone to spend uninterrupted time with loved ones, or saying no to distractions that compete for your energy. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it, because at the end of your life, it will not matter how much noise you consumed or how many trivial tasks you completed. What will matter is how much love you gave, how well you cared for your body and soul, and how faithfully you pursued the calling within you. Discipline is what transforms focus into results because clarity without consistent action is powerless. You can know exactly what matters. You can write down your goals. You can dream of the life you want. But if you do not discipline yourself to act on that vision every single day, nothing will change. Discipline is the bridge between intention and accomplishment. It is what keeps you moving forward when motivation fades, when distractions call your name, and when the easier path tempts you. Without discipline, focus remains just a thought, a desire that never manifests into reality. The truth is that discipline is rarely glamorous. It is built in small, daily choices that often feel ordinary in the moment, but create extraordinary outcomes over time. Waking up early when you want to sleep, saying no to unhealthy habits when they call to you, choosing to work on your dream instead of wasting hours on entertainment, staying committed to growth even when progress feels slow. These choices don't always feel rewarding immediately, but they are what shape a life of purpose. People often underestimate the power of consistent discipline because they expect results overnight. But discipline is not about instant gratification. It is about sowing seeds daily and trusting that, in time, they will grow into a harvest. Discipline is also what gives focus its strength. Without discipline, focus is fragile. You can start strong, but fall apart the moment resistance comes. With discipline, you build resilience. You teach yourself to keep going even when it's uncomfortable. You learn to endure setbacks without losing sight of the bigger picture. Discipline is like armor for your focus, protecting it from being shattered by distractions and difficulties. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, you strengthen your ability to stay focused. Over time, this becomes a habit, and what once felt difficult becomes natural. People often think discipline means restriction, but in reality, it is freedom. When you discipline yourself to focus on what truly matters, you free yourself from the chaos of living scattered. You no longer live at the mercy of impulses and temptations. You gain control over your choices, your habits, and ultimately your destiny. The undisciplined person may feel free in the moment because they indulge in whatever they want, But in the long run, they become a prisoner to those very impulses. The disciplined person may sacrifice short-term pleasures, but they gain long-term fulfillment and strength. True freedom is not doing whatever you feel like. It is having the control to direct your life where you want it to go. Discipline also requires sacrifice, and this is where many people falter. You cannot build discipline without letting go of what is easy but meaningless. You cannot stay disciplined if you constantly surround yourself with environments that encourage distraction. Discipline is built by removing temptations, by structuring your life in a way that supports your focus. It means protecting your mornings, setting boundaries with people who drain your energy, and replacing bad habits with ones that align with your goals. Every sacrifice you make in the name of discipline is not a loss. It is an investment in your future self. When you look at anyone who has achieved greatness, you will see discipline at the core of their journey. Talent alone is not enough. Passion alone is not enough. Even clarity alone is not enough. Without discipline, none of it endures. Discipline is what takes a person with average talent and helps them achieve extraordinary results. It is what separates those who dream from those who do. And the beautiful thing about discipline is that it is not reserved for a select few. It is available to anyone who is willing to choose it, practice it, and commit to it daily. The greatest challenge to focus is not always distraction from the outside, but the constant battle between what is urgent and what is important. The urgent screams for attention, demanding that you drop everything and respond immediately, while the important waits quietly, whispering for your consistency and patience. The urgent often feels more pressing because it comes with deadlines, alarms, and the sense that something will fall apart if you don't respond. But the important rarely forces itself into your schedule. It requires you to intentionally carve out time for it. This is why so many people end up living busy lives that are empty of fulfillment. They spend all their time fighting fires instead of building foundations. Urgency has a way of tricking the mind. It convinces you that responding to every notification, every email, every demand is necessary. It gives you the illusion of productivity, making you feel like you are moving forward because you are always in motion. But busyness is not the same as progress. You can spend your entire life putting out urgent fires while neglecting the things that actually build your future. That's why people can reach the end of their day exhausted, yet still feel like they accomplished nothing of significance. They let the urgent win, and the important was pushed aside once again. The important things in life are quieter, and that's what makes them easy to ignore. Taking care of your health is important, but it doesn't scream at you until illness strikes. Nurturing your relationships is important, but they don't collapse overnight. They slowly weaken when neglected. Pursuing your purpose is important, but it doesn't demand your attention with the same urgency as bills, notifications, or constant requests from others. And yet, these quiet, important things are the very ones that determine the quality of your life. Ignoring them may not hurt you today, but over time, it creates consequences that are impossible to escape. The ability to prioritize the important over the urgent is what separates those who live with peace and fulfillment from those who live with regret. It requires wisdom to recognize that not everything that demands your attention deserves it. It takes courage to say no to what is screaming for you so that you can say yes to what is silently shaping your destiny. This is why focus is not just about ignoring distractions. It is about training yourself to resist the pull of urgency and intentionally choose what matters most, even when it doesn't feel immediate. Every day presents you with this battle. Do you invest in your health, or do you skip it because work feels urgent? Do you spend time with loved ones, or do you push it off because something else seems pressing? Do you work on your dream, or do you waste another day responding to every little demand that could have waited? The choices seem small, but over weeks, months, and years, they create a massive difference. The urgent gives you temporary relief, but the important gives you lasting fulfillment. The people who win in life are not those who handle urgency the fastest, but those who master the discipline of choosing the important. They understand that urgency will always exist. It never goes away, but it must never dominate their focus. They create systems to handle the urgent without letting it consume them. They schedule their time for the important and protect it fiercely because they know that if they don't, the urgent will always take over. And in the end, it is the important things, the health you built, the relationships you nurtured, the purpose you pursued, that give life its meaning. True freedom is not found in doing everything, but in choosing to do the right things and letting go of the rest. When you focus only on what truly matters, life feels lighter, clearer, and more meaningful. The constant pull of distractions, demands, and endless obligations makes people believe they are trapped. But in reality, they are only trapped because they are scattered. When you spread yourself too thin, when you chase after every shiny object, when you say yes to everything, you lose control of your own life. But the moment you begin to focus, the moment you strip away the unnecessary and concentrate your energy on what counts, you discover a freedom that is deeper than temporary pleasure. It is the freedom of purpose. Freedom through focus comes from clarity. When you know what matters most, you stop feeling guilty about the things you let go. You no longer chase validation by trying to do everything for everyone. You no longer waste your energy trying to keep up with 1,000 different expectations. You understand that saying no is not selfish, is necessary. Every no to something meaningless is a yes to something meaningful. Every boundary you set to protect your time and attention opens more space for growth, peace, and fulfillment. This is freedom, not the absence of responsibility, but the ability to give yourself fully to what matters without being chained to what doesn't. Many people mistake distraction for freedom. They believe they are free because they can scroll endlessly, binge watch shows, or indulge in every desire without restraint. But this is not freedom. It is captivity disguised as comfort. True freedom is not about giving in to every impulse. It is about mastering yourself so you can live in alignment with your highest values. When you are constantly reacting to every distraction, you are not in control. Your impulses and external forces are controlling you. But when you focus, when you take back control of your attention, you reclaim your power. You decide what matters. You decide where your energy goes. You decide what deserves your time. That is real freedom. Another aspect of freedom through focus is simplicity. Life becomes complicated when you try to juggle too many things, when you live for appearances, when you measure yourself against others. But when you simplify, when you choose only what truly aligns with your soul, you cut through the noise. You stop competing, you stop comparing, and you stop feeling like you are behind. Focus frees you from the race you were never meant to run. It grounds you in your own path, reminding you that success is not about doing more, but about doing what matters most. And perhaps the most powerful freedom that focus gives is the freedom of peace. When you are scattered, you feel anxious, restless, and pulled in 1,000 directions. But when you focus, your mind becomes calmer. You no longer feel the weight of trying to be everywhere at once. You begin to feel the satisfaction of progress, the joy of being present, the contentment of knowing that your time is being invested wisely. You no longer dread regret because you know you are pouring yourself into what counts. That peace cannot be bought. It can only be earned by living with focus. In the end, the people who experience the deepest freedom are not those who chased everything, but those who had the courage to let go of the noise and devote themselves to the few things that mattered most. They do not look back on life wishing they had done less. They look back grateful that they gave their best to what was truly important. That is the kind of freedom focus creates. The freedom to live fully, love deeply, and leave behind a life of meaning.